Toronto Blue Jays, AJ Burnett.
And he has really been pitching well for Toronto. He's won 7 of his last 8 decisions. He is 17-10 in the season, and he leads the American League in strikeouts with 208.
Ortiz strikes out. Josh Beckett, his former teammate of the Florida Marlins. Lowell goes around, strikes out. Swing and a miss. Lowry strikes out. 3 Ks for Burnett. Back to Burnett. To first, and he's out of it again. Strike 3 call. Veritek's gone. Burnett knocks it down. There's time to recover and does so. Strike 3 call. 5th strikeout for AJ Burnett.
Well, here it is, the matchup that we've been waiting for. The Dr. Halladay doing his thing. I said possibly playoff type atmosphere, and you've got it tonight.
There's a base hit down the line. Snyder over to get it quickly as Damon turns for second. Here's the throw in, and Damon is out. Joe Girardi out quickly, too.
Well, Damon, what he does best is put the ball on the ground hard, in play. Nice play by Snyder to pick the ball, turn around. Let's see if he's in there, though.
32-year-old AJ Burnett wears enemy colors tonight. He is 2-0 on the year, a 5.26 ERA. Wave and a miss. Kevin Cash goes down swinging in his first game as a Yankee. 2-strike pitch and a swing and a miss. Snyder goes quickly. 0-2 pitch, strike 3 called. Say goodnight, Mr. Teixeira. Boy, Halladay is just mowing him down now.
I believe, and try to put him away.
There's the breaking ball, and that's a base hit down the line. Rios is in to score. Here comes Wells. Off to second goes Roland, and it's 2-0 for the Blue Jays.
A good piece of hitting by Scott Rowland. Fouled off the fastball and got the breaking ball. Able to place it down the line, hit it hard enough to get it past A-Rod. Couple runs in.
It is Sportsfeld Storytime. We are looking back at some of the best and worst moments of our fandom as Toronto sports fans. And we picked, I'll tell you, Jake, I'm actually pretty proud of myself for this one. We hit all the headlines, right? We did every Leafs moment we can possibly remember. I think we're almost out of Leafs moments. We've done the Kawhi shot. We've done the 92-93 World Series. We didn't do 92. We did 93 though. We've done a lot of different things. This month, we're a little bit outside of the box, I would say.
I'll say this. When you suggested this, it was like, man, that's a great idea. I was into this immediately.
Thank you very much. This month, we are looking back to the 2009, the 2009 Toronto Blue Jays versus New York Yankees. It's Roy Halladay versus AJ Burnett. I will tell you, not only was I at this game, but before 2015, Jake, before the Blue Jays made the playoffs, this is what Blue Jays fans called a playoff atmosphere. This is what we were convinced a playoff atmosphere was all about. Do you remember this game?
I do. I've been trying to remember if I was at it or not, though. I definitely remember the game. I've been trying to place, because it would have been like right on the border of when I would have gotten home from Montreal for the summer. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember. My gut tells me I was at the game, but I don't remember. But I do remember the game, and I do remember the lead up to it and the sort of, I guess for lack of a better word, hype around it. Mm-hmm. And how fun it was after years of medium to good to bad Blue Jays teams having a villain.
Yes.
For daring to not want to play for a non-playoff team.
It was May 12th, 2009 is the day in question. Halladay versus Burnett. And I'll tell you this, we'll get to it in a little while, but boy, for mid-May 2009, the Blue Jays drew 43,000 fans that night. That goes to tell you, like, that was a big deal. The Blue Jays did not draw 40,000 fans when it wasn't a huge deal back in the day.
The Blue Jays did not draw 40,000 fans in mid-May in 2015.
Right.
So
we'll start at the beginning with AJ Burnett, because he's somebody that I think, history as Blue Jays fans, we look back on and opinion could be maybe a little bit split. I remember the day they signed him before the 2006 season. It was 5 years, $55 million, which in hindsight is hilarious. That's hilarious money to get AJ Burnett at, considering how good he was in 3 seasons. Obviously, he had opt-outs, but he was pretty darn good over 3 seasons as a Blue Jay.
I guess let's call it the courtship of AJ Burnett still lives large in my brain. I remember him and Halladay sitting courtside at the Raptors game as like a big moment of like, oh, he actually like showed up and is willing to be wined and dined by us. Maybe we have a chance. And kind of funny how the evolution of the process of signing big name free agents has gone in the last 15 years, of like how the courtship now is like sell them on winning.
Yeah.
But then it was like, go to a basketball game with Roy Halladay, which I will say hard to beat a selling point of going to a basketball game with Roy Halladay.
That sounds about as good as it gets. Another guy and another sort of, maybe not guy is the right word, but the revisionist history and, looking back at it now as Blue Jays fans in 2021, and you say, AJ Burnett came along and was part of some fairly mediocre years with the Blue Jays. His first year, 2006, they went 87-75 and finished second in the East. Like that's a high watermark. They were 10 games back of the Yankees, but 87-75, you would take that in a heartbeat. Other than the two 2015 and 26 teams, those are two of the better teams of the new decade for the Blue Jays.
I also think it's funny in terms of revisionist history, how like I have this memory that is false of like AJ, and probably because this was like just around the cusp of like Moneyball becoming a thing. I feel maybe it's a little bit after, but like because AJ Burnett's wins and losses, save for his last year in Toronto, like weren't great because the team was fine. I have this memory of AJ Burnett being far worse than he was. Like I remember
4.
Right. I have a memory of him being after like the false narrative that's been put into my mind, I guess because those teams didn't, to your point, teams that were better than we give them credit for. I have memories of AJ Burnett coming and being sort of not a bust by any means, but like a disappointment compared to what the hype was. Mm-hmm. But then you look at his numbers now and it's like, oh, he was great.
And $11 million is nothing.
Nothing.
$11 million a year is a steal for a guy who was as good as he ended up being.
And his 2008 is bananas good.
Yeah, 2008 he is he goes 18-10, ERA just over 4, 231 strikeouts, ERA plus well over 100 in each of his seasons. 2007 he is also very good. ERA was 3.75. He only made 25 starts. There was some injury stuff the first 2 years. He didn't make his full slate of starts the first 2 years, but in his 3 years as a Blue Jay, 81 games, 3.94 ERA, 5 complete games, 1 shutout, 522 innings, ERA plus of 112, a FIP of 3.82, and he went 38-26, which as a number 2 guy behind Roy Halladay, that's about the best you could possibly ask for.
It's funny to me. Obviously very different situations and very different pitchers and very different players, but it does kind of strike me as funny how the sort of the narrative around Marcus Stroman and how it was like, there's like off field aside, there was kind of like, he was sort of painted to be X. And now with the Blue Jays currently constructed in 2021, he's exactly the guy that they need in the rotation.
Right.
Like his numbers and his style, exactly what you would plug into the current Blue Jays rotation. I feel like with AJ Burnett, he's sort of viewed as like either not being that good or being a disappointment or being the villain from afterwards, which we're going to discuss. But like, to your point, behind Roy Halladay, exactly the number 2 you want.
It is funny that they ended up being, it was use the term bromance. They were like, it was the going to see a Raptors game. It was the like, they show up to spring training together, laughing and like arms around each other. This is like the first, honestly, God, this is like the beginning of reading blogs that I can remember, is like the Halladay Burnett bromance, 2006, 2007, 2008. Really
you're right. This is right when like my DJF reading.
DJF, Ghost Runner on First, like you name it. This is like reading about Roy Halladay and AJ Burnett was the whole thing. And it's so funny that that's how the pairing of friends would be. Like you think of the guys who were famously close to Roy, it was Burnett and the other one was Chris Carpenter. And it's like, Chris Carpenter makes sense to you, right? It's sort of, he's this other similarly like stoic, quiet guy who goes about his business and whips ass. But like AJ Burnett was like the wild thing, dirt goatee, like hair out the back of the thing, got a lipper going. Like it's so funny that dichotomy of like the difference between the two of them. But the similarity, of course, is that they both like were absolute fucking horses. I think that was so cool, and part of the thing of just like what Roy liked was dudes who were fucking badass at pitching, right? It's sort of like he liked guys that fucking shoved. But it is so funny to your point is to look back and be like, it did feel like AJ was not that good. And you look at like, man, 2006, the rest of the rotation was Ted Lilly, Casey Janssen, Gustavo Chacin, and Sean Markham. 3 of those guys had ERAs above 5. Like, how did we ever give any blame to AJ Burnett when everybody else was like on the next year? It was Dustin McGowan, Sean Markham, who we love, Jesse Litch, and Josh Towers. Like, aside from Doc and AJ, like, man, that's all they had as pitchers.
And like, yeah, and even the year before, obviously we were excited for AJ to show up for exactly this reason. And like the year before, it was like Josh Towers was your like Josh Towers and Gustavo Chacin both started 30 plus games.
Crazy.
Then you had Roy, who only started 19 that year. Dave Bush, 5-11. Dave Bush was your 4th starter for the Blue Jays in 2005.
I'll tell you something that I will remember for a long time is I was actually at a game with my dad in AJ Burnett's first season as Blue Jay, 2006. And thanks to the wonder of Baseball Reference, I can look back at this. AJ Burnett against the Washington Nationals, and it was his first win as a Blue Jay, and he was so good. It was like ridiculous. It was like, oh my God, this is the guy. It was a 9-inning complete game shutout. He threw 7 Ks, 6 hits. He was absolutely unhittable. It may go down as, if not the best, one of his best performances as a Blue Jay. Game score 82. So depending on how you view your metrics, it was like unquestionably a top 2 or 3 AJ Burnett Blue Jay performance. I was a fan, but I think to your point earlier is that you never really bought fully into these Blue Jays unless you were like super deep into the Kool-Aid. Like, it's crazy to think now, but like 87 wins was just not impressive. Like 87 wins is mediocre. You're 10 back of the Yankees. You're 4 back of being in the wild card. You're just like, that's not even close. 87 wins.
Yeah, it was kind of like, it wasn't that it was bad. It just wasn't good enough.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And especially like you look at like all 3 of AJ Burnett's teams as a Blue Jay won 80 plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, 87, 83, and 86. And it's kind of like, I don't want to say the expectations, but like the standards, I guess, are kind of remarkable now, especially because that 2008 team that won 86 games finished 4th in the East with 86 wins with a Pythagorean win-loss of 93.
Crazy,
like,
right?
That was a good team.
Crazy. But people think, man, oh man, I hated the Black Jays. They were so bad.
Right.
They were a victim of the time. It was actually a fairly well-built team, turns out.
Yeah, like six of their starter of the 9 had OPS pluses over 100.
We're going to dance around the fact that 2006 Reed Johnson was a 5-win player. What? Talking about guys who were maligned, and I think we've course corrected on this, but I don't know if we will ever say enough about like 2006 Vernon Wells, man. That's a 6-win center fielder. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
I always found the Vernon contract talk to be so funny in retrospect, because it's like, maybe you could say it was too much money, but the years he had absolutely justified his contract.
He was 32 home runs. He was 303, 357, 542, 128 WRC plus, a Gold Glove center fielder. Like, man, there's not a lot of guys at the time in the league in 2006 that are equal value. That's like 6-win center fielder.
And A-Rod has batted second. And combined, they are hitting .412 with 6 home runs and 34 runs batted in. Not a bad way to start a ball game, huh?
The 2-2. Swung on, hit in the air to deep center. Wells going back on the track at the wall. She's gone. No, it was caught by Wells. Wells jumped over the fence and came back with a ball. I almost don't believe it.
Who was that, Devon White?
Oh, my goodness. Devon White, as Kitty mentioned, maybe the best outfielder playing the wall I've ever seen. But this is a great catch by Vernon Wells. Brings it back into the ballpark. Whew. Times his leap.
Bang. Look at this thing. That thing takes about 15 minutes to come out of the sky. Second level, home run Vernon Wells.
It's deep to left field by Wells. The Blue Jays are in front, leading Boston 2-1.
This one skied to left field and hit well. Here it is, back to the wall. That ball is gone! A walk-off for Vernon Wells, and the Blue Jays have defeated the Yankees.
What more do you want? Oh my goodness.
He signed that extension in 2007, and it was 7/126, which works out to I'm trying to do the math on that. 126 divided by 7. It's $18 million a year.
It's hilarious, right?
Which by today's standards is
theft.
It's $5 million more than Tanner Roark is making this year. And it's on, like, if you Google Vernon Wells contract today, one of the first things that comes up is Vernon Wells, Alex Rodriguez, and the 10 worst free agent contracts of all time.
Crazy.
It's nuts. And like, yeah, I get it. It didn't pan out the way they hoped, but also like he was really fucking good in 2006.
And I'll say he has 2 of his top 5 years, 2 of his top 4 years in 2008 and 2010.
Right.
Like,
in 2008, he slugs 840. He OPS plus is 123. He hits 20 home runs in only 108 games. Like,
crazy. Vernon, I'll bang this drum for Vernon belongs on the level of excellence. Like, it's not even a question to me. He's one of the best players in franchise history.
He's one of those guys, along with Doc and Carlos, where he was the only thing to watch for a lot of those years.
Yeah. And like you said, the money ends up being like what people remember, but it's like in terms of, you know, he's taken the most at bats. He's top 3 in hits, in runs, in total bases. You name a category. Vernon Wells is like top 5 in Blue Jays history. And I know this is supposed to be about AJ Burnett, but like Vernon Wells is unquestionably a top 5 Blue Jay of all time in terms of offense. Like to me, it's not even debatable. And if you look at career numbers.
Yeah, I agree. But to tie it into AJ Burnett, it is, and kind of what you were saying with the Black Jays, it is funny how maligned those teams are. And they were the best teams we saw for like a decade.
They were really good. We would kill for an 87 win team now. If the Jays won 87 games this year, people would be like, oh man, what a huge success this is.
Right.
Crazy. You just can't please everybody, Jake. That's your rule here. But on this side, I'm very biased because I loved the Black Jays. I loved this era. I am somebody who is a real apologist for this sort of stuff because I think that I wanted these teams to be so good.
Yeah, I think that I have revisioned myself out of how I felt at the time.
Yeah,
because like I was hugely into these teams, but I think I've spent the last 14 years being like, fuck those teams.
And the black hats. Oh my God. The black hats.
I wonder if I know how dumb this is going to sound, but truly, I wonder had they not rebranded with the black jerseys, if the team would be better remembered.
That's a good question because they just come out of that era with
Musselbird.
Musselbird and the Maple Leaf, the Clemens era. So a great question. Anyway, we will move forward in the next episode. We're going to talk about Burnett jumping to the Yankees, which, oh my God, how could he go to the Yankees? How could somebody pick the 97 win Yankees over slumming it with Roy Halladay? All that and more in the next episode of Sportsfeld Storytime next week.